Take my neighbor, who's 68. 3 eggs made up her breakfast every day. It looked like a great source of protein, yet her muscle mass ranked far below most people in her age range. She had plenty of nutritious food at home, but her body couldn't maintain strength. The problem wasn't the quantity of food, it was the vegetables she paired with her eggs. Here is what most people miss. After 60, your muscles stop responding to protein the way they used to. Scientists call it anabolic resistance. It means you can eat the right amount of protein and still lose muscle, unless you cross a specific threshold at every single meal. 3 vegetables that millions of people eat with eggs every morning are quietly blocking that threshold, and 3 others practically force your muscles to absorb more. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which ones to stop, which ones to start, and why your next breakfast could be the turning point. What country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. I have spent years working in the emergency room, and one pattern I see again and again is older adults coming in after a fall, a broken hip, or a wrist fracture. And when I look at their charts, the muscle loss had been building quietly for years. The medical term is sarcopenia. It affects roughly 1 in 8 Americans between 60 and 70. Over 80, it climbs to 1 in 2. And here is what concerns me most. The condition does not announce itself. You do not feel your muscles thinning. You feel it when you cannot get out of a chair without pushing off with both arms. You feel it when the grocery bags suddenly feel like they are filled with sand. You feel it when the stairs steal your breath halfway up. But this is not inevitable, and your breakfast is a bigger lever than most people realize. Now, before I show you the 3 vegetables to rethink with eggs, I need to explain something that changes everything about how you think about protein after 60. Because once you understand this one concept, your entire approach will shift. Your muscles have a lock on them. Think of it like a deadbolt on a door. Protein is the key, but in younger people, that lock opens easily. A small key works fine. After 60, the lock gets stiff, rusty, and harder to turn. You need a bigger key. That bigger key has a name: leucine. It is an amino acid, one of the building blocks of protein, and it is the specific one that flips the switch for muscle building. Scientists call it the leucine threshold. Pay close attention to this number. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Physiology by researchers at the University of Texas Medical Branch found that older adults need roughly 40 to 50% more leucine per meal than younger adults to trigger the same muscle building response. In practical terms, that means you need about 25 to 30 grams of high quality protein at a single sitting, not spread across the day in tiny amounts, at one meal. A 2022 meta-analysis by Guo and colleagues looking at 17 randomized controlled trials confirmed that leucine supplementation significantly improves both muscle mass and physical performance in older adults with sarcopenia, not marginally, significantly. The research is not ambiguous here. Here is why that changes everything about breakfast. 3 large eggs give you about 18 grams of protein and roughly 1.5 grams of leucine. That is good, but research suggests you need closer to 3 grams of leucine per meal to fully activate the muscle-building switch after 60. You are close to the threshold, hovering just below it, but not over it. And this is the narrow space where the vegetables you pair with those eggs become the difference between building muscle and slowly losing it. Think of it like a thermostat set to 72 degrees. If the room reaches 71, the heat does not kick on. You are 1 degree short. The system stays dormant. But push it to 72 and everything activates. That is what crossing the leucine threshold feels like inside your muscle cells. You are either below it and nothing happens, or above it and the entire protein synthesis machinery engages. Some vegetables help push you over that line. Others work against you in ways nobody explains. Stay with me on this, because the first one is going to surprise you. The first vegetable most people should stop eating raw with eggs is spinach. And I know what you are thinking. Spinach is supposed to be a superfood. Your doctor probably told you to eat more leafy greens. And that advice is not wrong. Here's the catch. Spinach is extremely high in compounds called oxalates. 1 cup of cooked spinach contains roughly 750 milligrams. That is one of the highest concentrations of any vegetable you commonly eat. Now, what do oxalates actually do? They bind to minerals, calcium, iron, and zinc. They grab onto these minerals and form tiny crystals your body cannot absorb. But here is the part that most health videos get wrong. And I need to be honest with you about this because the internet has turned this into a bigger monster than it actually is. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition found that oxalates from spinach primarily bind to the minerals inside the spinach itself. When researchers studied calcium absorption from milk eaten alongside spinach, the milk calcium was absorbed normally. The spinach was not reaching over and stealing minerals from other foods on the plate. So what is the real concern? It is more targeted than total mineral blockage. The real concern is iron and zinc. Studies suggest oxalates from high oxalate vegetables may reduce iron absorption from other foods in the same meal by roughly 15 to 30%. For a young person with robust absorption, that is barely noticeable. But for someone over 60 whose digestive system is already less efficient at extracting minerals from food, that 15 to 30% reduction matters. And here is the connection back to muscle. Iron carries oxygen to your muscles. Without adequate oxygen delivery, your muscles fatigue faster. You feel weak climbing stairs, exhausted after walking to the mailbox. Zinc is required for protein synthesis. Without enough zinc, your body has the raw protein from eggs, but cannot assemble it into muscle tissue. It is like having all the parts for a bookshelf, but no screwdriver to put it together. Now, I need to be crystal clear. If you love spinach, do not throw it away. Spinach is still an excellent source of folate, vitamin K, and lutein, which protects your eyes from age-related macular degeneration. The smart move is to eat it at a different meal. Have your spinach at lunch or dinner, several hours away from your eggs. Give your body a clean shot at absorbing the iron and zinc without interference. When you do eat spinach, cook it. Boiling spinach for 2 to 3 minutes and draining the water can reduce oxalate content by 30 to 50%. And here is something most people do not know. Cooking spinach actually makes its lutein more absorbable when paired with fat. So a cooked spinach salad with olive oil at dinner is genuinely better than raw spinach with eggs at breakfast. If you are taking iron supplements or blood thinners like warfarin, talk to your doctor before making changes to your spinach intake. Vitamin K in spinach affects how warfarin works. And if you have a history of kidney stones, high oxalate intake is a real risk factor. Do not adjust medication or major dietary patterns on your own. The second vegetable to rethink with eggs is raw tomatoes. And this one is more nuanced than what you may have read online. There is a popular claim circulating on health channels that tomatoes make your stomach too acidic, that the extra acid disrupts an enzyme called pepsin, and that protein from eggs goes undigested. I have looked for strong clinical evidence supporting that specific claim, and I will tell you directly, it is thin, very thin. I could not find a single well-designed human study confirming that tomatoes impair protein absorption from eggs through pH disruption. Here is what actually matters. Think of your breakfast plate like a small budget. You only have so much room. Every item on that plate is either pushing you toward that 25 to 30 gram protein threshold, or it is sitting there taking up space. Tomatoes are sitting there. They are low in protein, low in the minerals that directly support muscle synthesis, and they contribute almost nothing to helping you cross the leucine threshold. Now, tomatoes are not harmful. They are rich in lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that supports heart health. A 2022 meta-analysis in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found lycopene associated with reduced cardiovascular risk. That is real. That is valuable. But here is the thing. That benefit is not specific to breakfast. Have your tomatoes at lunch. Roast them with olive oil for dinner. Cooking actually increases lycopene absorption by 2 to 3-fold. Get the cardiovascular benefit without sacrificing your muscle-building breakfast window. There is another claim I want to address because I see it everywhere. Some videos say tomatoes contain solanine, which damages muscles and nerves. Let me correct that. Tomatoes do not contain solanine. That compound is found in green potatoes. Tomatoes contain a different compound called tomatine. And while tomatine is technically a glycoalkaloid, the amounts in ripe red tomatoes are extremely low. The science does not support the claim that eating ripe tomatoes causes muscle weakness through glycoalkaloid toxicity in normal dietary amounts. If you hear someone say otherwise, ask them for the study. You will not get one. If you are on blood pressure medication, particularly ACE inhibitors or potassium-sparing diuretics, tomatoes are high in potassium. For most people, that is fine, but if your kidney function is reduced, too much potassium can become dangerous. Ask your doctor for your eGFR at your next visit. That one number tells you a lot about your kidney health. Do not guess. Now, here is what I find truly interesting about the tomato question, and this connects to something most people overlook completely. Let me tell you about Donna. She represents a pattern I have seen dozens of times in practice. Donna is 71, a retired postal carrier outside of Pittsburgh. For 32 years, she walked a mail route, rain or shine, 6 days a week. She had strong legs her entire life. Then she retired. Within 3 years, she could not carry a laundry basket up the stairs without stopping. Her doctor told her she had lost significant muscle mass. She was eating what she thought was a perfect breakfast, 3 eggs with raw spinach and diced tomatoes every single morning. Picture her sitting in my office, leaning forward. She says, "I do not understand. I eat protein. I eat my vegetables. What am I doing wrong?" She was not doing anything wrong. She was doing everything she had been taught, but the combination was working against her efficiency, and she had no idea. I will tell you what happened with Donna in a few minutes, but first, the third vegetable, raw bell peppers. And I want to be precise here. The issue is specifically with raw peppers, not cooked. Raw bell peppers contain tough, insoluble fiber, cellulose walls that resist your digestive enzymes. For a 25-year-old with a strong digestive system, no problem whatsoever. But after 60, your stomach produces less hydrochloric acid. Your pancreas releases fewer digestive enzymes. Adding a food that demands heavy digestive work alongside your protein-rich eggs means your system is dividing its limited resources. Some of that egg protein passes through less fully digested than it could have been. This is not dramatic, it is not dangerous, but it is inefficient. And when you are trying to cross the leucine threshold at every meal, inefficiency is the quiet thief. The fix is simple. Cook your peppers. 5 to 7 minutes in a pan with a little olive oil. Heat breaks down the cellulose and softens the fiber. Your digestive system spends less energy wrestling with the peppers and more energy absorbing those amino acids from the eggs. And cooking peppers actually increases the bioavailability of their vitamin C and beta carotene. You get more nutrition from the same vegetable, not less. If this is making sense to you, hit like so the algorithm shows this to someone who needs it. That one tap costs you nothing, but it could change someone else's morning. Now, let me show you the 3 vegetables that actually amplify what eggs do for your muscles. And the first one is the most powerful combination I know: mushrooms. Mushrooms bring something to the table that almost no other plant food provides: vitamin D. When mushrooms are exposed to sunlight or UV light during growth, they produce vitamin D2. Here is why that matters for your muscles more than almost anything else on your plate. A study published in Calcified Tissue International found that adults over 50 with low vitamin D levels had a 78% higher risk of losing muscle strength. Let that number register: 78%. Your muscle cells have vitamin D receptors on their surface. When those receptors are activated, protein synthesis improves, your muscles contract more efficiently, and your risk of falling drops significantly. A separate analysis in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that adequate vitamin D supplementation reduced fall risk by 17 to 22% in seniors over 65. Most Americans over 65 are low in vitamin D. The estimates range from 30 to 60%, depending on the study. Most conventional eggs contain only about 40 international units per egg. That is barely a fraction of what you need. UV-treated mushrooms can provide several hundred IU per serving. The combination of eggs plus mushrooms gives you complete protein, leucine approaching the threshold, and vitamin D working together. 3 inputs pushing your muscles in the same direction at the same time. 1 cup of cooked mushrooms adds only about 44 calories. They are also rich in B vitamins, riboflavin, and niacin, which help convert protein into usable energy for your muscle cells. And they contain beta-glucans, a type of fiber that helps reduce the chronic, low-grade inflammation that accelerates muscle loss with aging. A practical note on shopping: look for mushrooms labeled UV-treated or high in vitamin D at the store. Maitake mushrooms tend to have the highest natural vitamin D content. White button mushrooms that have been exposed to UV light can provide 300 to 400 IU per serving. If your store does not carry UV-treated mushrooms, you can actually set regular mushrooms gill side up in direct sunlight for 30 to 60 minutes before cooking. Research from Boston University found this increases their vitamin D content substantially. That is free vitamin D from your windowsill. If you are on immunosuppressant medications, talk to your doctor before dramatically increasing your mushroom intake. Beta-glucans stimulate immune activity, and that interaction matters. Do not exceed 2 cups daily without medical guidance. Now, let me come back to Donna. This is the part that matters most. Week 1, she swapped the raw spinach and diced tomatoes for sautéed mushrooms alongside her 3 eggs. She added a tablespoon of cottage cheese on the side, pushing her breakfast protein to about 28 grams, above the threshold. Day 4, she messaged me. She said, "Honestly, it does not taste as good as my old breakfast yet." I told her to give it 2 full weeks. Week 3, she called me, not messaged, called. Her exact words were, "I climbed the stairs with the laundry basket yesterday, both hands on the basket, no railing, first time in 2 years." That moment right there, that is why crossing the leucine threshold at breakfast is not a minor optimization. It is the difference between carrying your own laundry and asking your daughter to come over and do it for you. It is the difference between staying in your own home and losing it. Now, Donna also added 2 more vegetables over the following weeks, and both of them amplified the effect further. The second vegetable to eat with eggs is steamed asparagus. And this one works through a pathway that genuinely surprised me when I first saw the research. Have you ever had your homocysteine level checked? Most people have not. Most doctors do not order it routinely, but it is a number that quietly predicts your muscle future. Asparagus is rich in folate. 1 cup of cooked asparagus provides roughly 60% of your daily folate needs. Here is why that matters. Folate helps regulate homocysteine levels in your blood. When homocysteine gets too high, and it tends to rise with age, it does not just threaten your heart, It is directly associated with muscle weakness and reduced physical performance. A 2021 study in the journal Nutrients examined over 2,000 adults aged 60 and older. Those with the highest homocysteine levels had significantly lower grip strength and walking speed than those with normal levels. The researchers called it an independent risk factor for sarcopenia. Asparagus also contains prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. This is something the original research on muscle is only beginning to appreciate. Healthy gut bacteria improve nutrient absorption across the board, including the amino acids from your eggs. Your gut microbiome is not separate from your muscle health. It is directly connected. Steam asparagus for 3 to 4 minutes. Do not overcook it. Heat destroys folate. Serve it alongside your eggs with a drizzle of olive oil. The fat helps absorb the fat-soluble vitamins. If you have gout or a history of uric acid kidney stones, asparagus contains purines, which can raise uric acid levels. Moderate your intake and discuss it with your doctor. The third is cooked bell peppers, and this one brings the whole picture together. The same vegetable I told you to avoid raw becomes one of the best partners for eggs when you cook it. Cooked bell peppers are one of the richest sources of vitamin C available. One medium red bell pepper contains more vitamin C than a large orange. And vitamin C does something specific for muscle that most people do not realize. It is essential for collagen synthesis. Collagen is the connective tissue that surrounds and supports every muscle fiber. Without adequate collagen, your muscles cannot transmit force effectively. You lose functional strength, even if the muscle tissue itself is intact. Vitamin C also enhances iron absorption. Remember the problem with iron and muscle oxygen delivery? When you eat cooked bell peppers alongside eggs, the vitamin C actively pulls more iron into your bloodstream. A 2020 meta-analysis in the journal Antioxidants found that higher vitamin C intake was associated with greater muscle mass and better physical performance in adults over 60. Sauté peppers in olive oil for 5 to 7 minutes. The oil helps absorb the beta-carotene, the heat breaks down the tough fiber, and honestly, they taste better cooked. Donna's results were on the better end of what I typically see. Not everyone responds that quickly. Let me give you a realistic timeline so you know what to expect and you do not quit too early. Week 1. Adjustment. The food tastes different. You might feel like you are eating less because mushrooms and asparagus are lighter than your old breakfast. Your body is recalibrating. This is the week most people give up. Do not. Week 2. Stabilization. The flavors normalize. You might notice your mid-morning energy is more consistent, less of that crash around 10 a.m. That is the protein threshold doing its job. Your blood sugar stays steadier when you hit 25 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast instead of 18. Week 3. The first signals. This is when most people notice something subtle. Getting up from a chair feels slightly easier. The stairs do not wind you as much. Your grip on the jar lid is a little more confident. These are small, but they are real, and they are the muscle-building machinery waking up. Week 4 through 8. Measurable change. If you are tracking, your grip strength may improve, and your walking speed may increase. A 2021 study in the journal Clinical Nutrition found that optimizing protein distribution, specifically hitting the leucine threshold at each meal, improved muscle mass markers within 8 to 12 weeks in adults over 65. The discomfort of week 1 is the price of admission. The people who push through it are the ones who call me 3 weeks later with a story like Donna's. Let me bring this together for you. One more thing before the recap. Timing matters. Your muscles are most responsive to protein first thing in the morning after the overnight fast. That is when the leucine threshold matters most. If you only optimize one meal, make it breakfast. The research from the ERIC cohort following nearly 6,000 adults suggests that front-loading protein intake earlier in the day is associated with better muscle preservation over time. The real issue was never that certain vegetables are toxic with eggs. That is internet exaggeration. The real issue is efficiency. After 60, your body has a narrow window at each meal to build muscle. You need to cross the leucine threshold. You need adequate vitamin D. You need iron and zinc absorption working for you, not against you. And you need to use your plate space wisely because you cannot eat unlimited volume at breakfast. Stop pairing eggs with raw spinach, raw tomatoes, and raw bell peppers at breakfast, not because they are poison, but because they are taking up space that could be filled by something that actively helps. Start pairing eggs with sautéed mushrooms, steamed asparagus, and cooked bell peppers. These three bring vitamin D, folate, vitamin C, and anti-inflammatory compounds that directly support muscle protein synthesis and add a small protein boost to cross the threshold. Here are three options that cost almost nothing. A heaping tablespoon of cottage cheese adds about 4 grams of protein and costs roughly 15 cents. A quarter cup of plain Greek yogurt adds about 5 grams. Or 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds sprinkled on top add about 7 grams, and you will not even taste them. Any one of these pushes a 3-egg breakfast from 18 grams to the 25 to 30 gram range you need. That is the difference between the thermostat sitting at 71 and reaching 72. The heat kicks on. If you are on any medication, especially blood pressure drugs, blood thinners, diabetes medication, or immunosuppressants, talk to your doctor before making significant dietary changes. Print the reference list in the description below. Bring it to your next appointment. A good doctor will welcome that conversation. If you are on Medicare, your annual wellness visit costs you nothing. 0 copay, 0 deductible. Most people never book it. At that visit, ask for 3 numbers: your vitamin D level, your EGFR, and your A1C. Those 3 numbers together tell you more about your muscle health than most people realize. Type finished if you watch this whole video and share it with one person: your mother, your father, your spouse, someone whose strength matters to you. Your body at 60, 70, or 80 still has the machinery to build muscle. That machinery has not disappeared. It has just gotten harder to activate. And often, the difference between activating it and missing it comes down to what is sitting on the plate next to your eggs at 7:30 in the morning. But there is something I did not cover today. Something that happens in the 2 hours after breakfast that can undo everything you just did right, and it has nothing to do with food. That is next week. Take care of yourself. I am glad you are here.